Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about something that's a huge part of all of our lives: housing. I mean, it's so much more than just a roof over our heads, right? It's where we live, it's our community, and it's one of the biggest financial decisions we ever make. It's a massive topic, so let's dive right in.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at all the different kinds of houses out there. Then, we'll actually step inside and check out the typical layout. After that, we'll tackle that huge question, should you own or should you rent? And finally, we'll zoom out and look at the big housing challenges we're all facing today. All right, let's start with the absolute basics. What kind of houses are there, really? You've got your classic designs that have been around forever, and then you have modern city apartments. Understanding what's out there is, well, it's the very first step to finding your own place in the world. First up, let's talk traditional homes. These are the styles you probably picture when you think of a quiet neighborhood, the kinds of houses that have been popular for generations. And you'll see each one has its own unique flavor. So, the first one on our list is the detached house. And its main feature is super simple. It stands all by itself. No shared walls with anyone. This style gives you a lot of privacy and space, which is probably why it's so popular in places like the USA and Czechia. Next up is the semi-detached house. So, picture two separate homes, but they're built side by side and joined together by one single wall right down the middle. If you've ever seen pictures of British suburbs, you've definitely seen these. They're a total classic in the UK. And if we take that idea just one step further, we get the terraced house. This is basically a whole row of houses, often looking exactly the same, all connected in one long building. It's a super efficient way to fit a lot of homes into a small area, especially in cities. And for our last traditional style, we have the cottage. A cottage is usually a small, really cozy home with a classic design. You'll almost always find them out in the countryside. You know, it really makes you think of charm and a simpler way of life. Okay, so that covers the classics. But, our lifestyles have changed, and cities have gotten way bigger. So let's shift gears and look at the more modern spaces where a lot of us are living today. Okay. Probably the most common modern home you'll see is the apartment, or a flat, which is what they usually call it in the UK. It's your own set of rooms, but it's inside a much larger building with lots of other homes. It's a setup that's just perfect for city living. Then you have something really cool, the loft. These are these huge, wide open living spaces that often used to be something else, like an old factory or a warehouse. That history gives them a really unique feel, usually with super high ceilings and almost no interior walls. And finally, we can't forget how technology is changing everything. A smart house is a home where things like the heating, the lights, and security are all connected. You can control pretty much everything right from your phone, making life way more convenient and, honestly, a lot more efficient. All right, so we've looked at the outside of these buildings. Now let's actually step through the front door. In this section, we're going to explore the different rooms you find inside a home and the basic stuff that makes it all work. So, in a typical house, things are often separated into different areas, sometimes on different floors. The ground floor is usually where the social stuff happens. The kitchen, the living room. The first floor is usually more private. That's where you'll find the bedrooms. And lots of homes have extra spaces too, like an attic, a cellar, or a garage for storage and cars. But of course, a house is just a building until you put stuff in it. I mean, a kitchen isn't really a kitchen without a fridge and a stove, right? A living room is all about comfort, so you need a sofa and a coffee table. And the bedroom, well, that's your personal space, built around a bed and a wardrobe. Okay, so you've picked out a style of house you like, but now comes an even bigger question. This is one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. Is it better to own your own home or to rent it? Let's break it down. Let's look at the pros and cons here. Owning a home? Well, it gives you a ton of freedom and it's a great long-term investment. But you're on the hook for a mortgage and all the repairs. Renting? You get tons of flexibility to move whenever you want, but you have less control over the place. Even living with family or sharing with flatmates is a trade-off. You save money, but you might lose some privacy. At the end of the day, it's really all about what you want and where you are in your life. Are you looking for that long-term stability and investment that comes with owning a home? Or is the freedom and flexibility of renting more your speed right now? Now, for our final section, let's zoom out from our own personal choices and look at the bigger picture. Because honestly, modern housing comes with some pretty serious challenges for society as a whole. So,
what are the huge problems we're all facing today?
Well, there are 4 really big ones to talk about. First off, prices are just sky high, which makes it incredibly hard for young people to buy a home. Second, homelessness is still a major problem, especially in big cities. Third, more and more people are moving to cities, which is making them really crowded. And finally, just keeping older houses in good shape can be a huge financial headache for their owners.
And you have to understand, these 4 hurdles, affordability, homelessness, overcrowding, and maintenance, they aren't separate problems. No, they're all tangled together, and they have a direct impact on the health and the future of our communities. So, wow, as we've seen, housing is just this massive, complex topic, isn't it? We started with the simple stuff, like different types of houses. Then we moved into big financial decisions, like owning versus renting. And we ended up looking at these huge challenges that affect all of society.
We've talked about the what and the how of housing today, but the biggest question of all is about what's next. As the world keeps changing, the real challenge is figuring out how we're going to make sure everyone has a safe, affordable place to call home. That's really the key thing I want to leave you with. Thanks so much for watching.